How many of you are totally unfamiliar with Michaela? Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, Michaela, I've known Michaela for about 4 or 5 years, I think. And so she came to one of our organization's events some time ago, and she started channeling in front of audiences in our local area. So she's still very new on the scene, really only about 3.5 years. And so some of you have probably seen a lot of her videos. If you haven't, almost all of these events are recorded and put them out on YouTube. So she's been really more in the focus in the Michigan area. It's her first time outside of Michigan to do an event. The first of many. So we're planning on coming back in the spring as well. So
yeah. I heard spirits canceling your flight out of here. You're staying.
I hope so.
Anyway, so we run an organization called Flower of Life, and we do all kinds of events internationally, including an expo in November, where we bring in all kinds of amazing people from all over the world to speak on different things in the field of consciousness. So Sedona is really a great place for us to do our first event because of the level of awareness here. But anyway, so what makes Michaela unique from other channels that you may be familiar with is she's a trance channel, not a lot of channels. Now, any of you watch Waking Power TV, my show? Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you for watching. So I've interviewed a lot of channels on my show over the years, and I asked them all if they're trance channels or how they channel. So there are very few who are authentically trance channels. So one of the great things about Michaela that is unique is that she is completely out of the way for most of her channeling. Now, every once in a while, her consciousness will come through, and you'll be able to see that whenever it happens. But for the most part, when you're asking the question, you're speaking directly to the consciousness that is speaking through her. And one of the other unique qualities is that she pretty much channels everybody. So all kinds of consciousnesses will flow through her, from everything from Mary Magdalene to extraterrestrial consciousness. So she's very flexible in that way. So very unique experience. She's very new on the scene, and my belief has always been, so I have this, we all have superpowers, all of you do too, right? You just don't know it yet, all of you maybe, but one of the things that I'm able to do is really size up a person and see the potential of what they have in them, and I really believe that she's in the beginning of a very, very big, bright future in this field.
I agree.
Yeah, and those of you who are familiar with other channels, I'm sure you can see the distinction between her and others as well. So this is a very big treat for us to be able to experience her very newly on her journey. And so anyway, I'd like to welcome Michaela to Sedona. And
I'm just overwhelmed to be here in Sedona at the Creative Life Center and also see so many familiar faces in the crowd. Clients and friends, and I'm so blessed, and I didn't think I was going to get teary up here, but I kind of am, because I get to do such amazing work, and I'm so blessed to meet so many amazing people on this journey that are doing amazing work, all of you. So thank you for being here. I want to send a special thank you to my client and friend Elena, because she insisted a while back that I come to Sedona, and she did not take no for an answer. And she paved my way here so easily that I just want to give so much gratitude to you. Thank you. And so here we are together in this space. And what I love about these live events that I haven't been able to take outside of Michigan yet is that all of you that are here are making up a consciousness in this room. So here we are together, vibrating in this energy. We're going to have support of a variety of different guides and beings that are going to assist us. And we record today. So all of your intentions and your questions become a part of this creation. And when it unfolds, you'll see that it'll really be amazing. This is also a vibrational energy, right? It's not just about the words. So when I'm speaking and when I'm channeling, there's a vibration coming through me. So it doesn't matter if you get lost in the words or the concepts, or you can't keep up with what's happening today. Just know that it's all in divine order, and everything that you're receiving is going to be working within you to create some kind of change in your life, whether that be relationships, right? The career, your purpose, your gifts, all of these different directions we're heading. So what I typically do is I speak for about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little less today because we'll want to channel more, about my journey and about my channeling, just to catch everyone up, if you haven't been watching the videos, on what has been coming through me. And for those of you who are in the room who aren't familiar with me, I just want to add a little sprinkle of what has brought me here today, because I think it's really important. Here we are on the other side of this eclipse, and we have so many things erupting on the planet right now, and it's difficult, and it takes me back in time to when I first started to channel, and I was not at all a fan of this channeling thing. For those of you who don't know me, I lived in a real mainstream world. I didn't even know what channeling was. I was in the midst of chronic pain and trying to heal myself of that chronic pain, and had gotten to a roadblock where, all the medications I was taking, all of the procedures, everything had broken me down, and I had to make a shift. And I believe that within us, everything that we need resides, that we have this divine interaction with the universe, and that we are God. We are, all of us, in this unique form that we are in, are an aspect of God. And if that is not true, how is it that we cannot find the answer, the healing, whatever we need? But because we've been so physically focused, sometimes the universe has to shake us up a little bit and send us down a path where we get knocked around a little bit. And that's what happened to me. I got knocked around a little bit. I was in chronic pain. I ended up being picked up and dropped off in an area of town where I didn't have the support that I needed, that I had previously. Found myself very alone. Started to meditate. And began having conversations with beings and guides that I had no idea existed, especially extraterrestrials, right? I was the PTA mom in a PTA world, was large and in charge as a volunteer. Let me tell you, this was a closet thing for me. It was not something I was, sitting at the local bake sale talking to others about. And what I found was the energy of this connection fueled this beautiful path of recovery for me that there's no way in heck I could have worked hard enough to figure out on my own. And I think that is really the energy we're in right now. I was told early on I was here to be a channel for a very difficult time on the planet for light workers. I didn't know what the word light workers even meant at the time. I didn't know what this difficult time was all about. But now I see it. We all see it, do we not? We've raised the bar collectively on how we're attempting to heal. We've been very soul-focused. We've been very connected to our physical experience. And hey, there's nothing wrong with physical. We came to be physical and to be in this beautiful, co-conspiring energy of God all around us. But we've forgotten, that soul experience is so important. So what I was told was there would be a time on the planet where people would not see with their eyes the vibrational changes that were occurring underneath the surface. And that we would be healing the planet in a way that if we could stay aligned with our truth, would unfold before our eyes. But there's a lag, there's a lag time here. And I think we're in that lag time right now. Okay, so here we are looking out upon our experience, seeing all of these things erupt. And I'm going to go through this whole progression of the eclipse in a moment and break it down the way I understand it from my channeling. But in general, this has been going on for a long time, There are many of us who have awakened to things on our planet that we didn't realize were happening, things that we're not in favor of, whether they be about our physical body, our government, our earth. And in that initial awakening, very much like all of you, I was extremely angry. And my mind was going straight into the physical. What are we going to do about all of this? how are we going to clean this up? How are we going to reverse this? And so my journey became connecting to the information, the people, the places, and the things that showed me a different way of healing for myself and for the collective, because we're all connected. So as I began to channel, I had an initial guide come in. His name was Jacob. It was what I call a gatekeeper, right? One of those special guides that's here to connect you with the appropriate beings, people, places, and things, and that he did for sure. And he led me down this beautiful path of recovery. But in the process, I connected with all of the resources, the people, the places, the things that I needed to fuel in me what I have in my divine record. And that's a collective agreement that I made. We all have these collective agreements, and we think it's something really big. Well, I'm a light worker. I'm here with this big thing I have to do, and I'm not doing it, and I don't know what it is. And we try to make it really physical, but our soul is so interconnected with all things that when we expand, when we go on this journey of expansion, what we'll find is that we are affecting everything around us. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. So these things that we see, although they're erupting, how are they not equal to those karmic events that we have that take our soul on that journey of discovery and expansion and healing? Right? We're leveling it up. We're moving our attention from that soul journey, which we're never going to get rid of. That soul journey is always going to be a part. It has to. But now our sight is on the collective. But it's the same thing. We can bang our fist on the table and think about all these physical things that we have to do. But it's all energetic, and everything that we are, not that we do, but that we are, contributes to what we're seeing on the planet. So what I found in my journey was, and people ask me this all the time, how did you go from that PTA mom, to being this channel in the world? And it wasn't easy, but the identity that I held, the relationship that I cultivated with these beings just began to show me more of who I was. And you have to accept that and hold on to it and grab onto it so hard that you embody it. And that's really the part that we're missing, I think. We're in this time on the planet where we're in a timeline split, a dimensional split. And we have things that are falling away and that we're restructuring, but we get so frustrated and we pay so much attention to those physical things that sometimes we forget there's something else over here, And when we're moving, when we're shifting between dimensions, that's when we feel the most frustrated, right? And how many of us are feeling that frustration right now with the planet, with everything? The guides will say, frustration is only a vibrational announcement of your physical structure to the change you've already made. And what that means is that you've already created a new timeline. And the reason you're so frustrated and feeling so anxious and disconnected is that you still see the stuff that's falling away, and you're not grasping onto the new stuff just yet. And that's okay, right? All change has to evolve. And that's what we're here to do. So I want to break down for a moment, for those of you who have been listening to my channeling and those who haven't, a progression of what's been taking place before and since the eclipse, from my understanding and from my channeling. So we know this eclipse was a huge, huge event here on our planet energetically. Mother Gaia is a living, breathing being. And we have this divine record, this plan that we've chosen. And it was a collective decision. So us being here in these singular bodies, we forget that everybody around us, our family members, our friends, our co-workers, we co-conspired all of this with them for our highest good. And we think, well, how in the world could I have conspired with this person for my highest good? Well, because we see so singularly, sometimes from that vantage point, we're not able to comprehend those collective decisions. So here we have this planetary alignment come, this solar eclipse, and And I think it can't just be one thing. And we think so singularly, we want it to be one thing. We want that one answer. What was this eclipse all about? Why did this stuff happen? And I don't think there's any easy answer to all of this, but there's a myriad of things that comes together to make this happen. All right. And by the way, I want everyone to feel free to ask questions, comment, add, because I think that enriches the whole environment. So the solar eclipse, think of it as Mother Gaia's record being triggered. Okay, so we have times when karma is released. We have times when planetary alignments hit our soul record, and we have karmic experiences that erupt. On a grand scale, that solar eclipse was clearing some karmic timelines from Mother Gaia. Some really dense cords. And they had to erupt because we have to walk through the experience in order for it to vibrationally change. Okay? So Mother Gaia has all this karma. We have these timelines within her that were matched and brought to the surface. Now here's the thing. On this earth, as humans, we have a structure. All that structure is a design of our human race. Every other race has a design as well. How we operate with universal law. One of the key aspects of how human beings operate in universal law is free will. We all have free will as singular souls. So how in the world do we have Mother Gaia erupt all of this karmic timeline energy and us be able to heal it? We have to interact with it through our free will. It gives us an opportunity to vibrationally walk through the experience and change it. Because we're physical beings. There's no other way around this. We have to walk through physical timeline energy in order to realign it and change it. All right? So the good news is we could have vibrationally matched a variety of timeline energy that was catastrophic. I mean, we know, right? There's nuclear wars that have happened here, great floods that have happened here, all kinds of things. What I believe is this eclipse could have been the catalyst for a lot of that erupting on the planet. But what happens is our consciousness is involved. So as these timelines are erupting, our vibrational speed affects the way that they manifest. So a vibrational timeline is just energy. Think of it as clay. It has imprints in it of things that have happened before. But when it comes to the surface, we mold that clay. Through our consciousness, through our attention to it, through our reaction to it, through our response to it, because we're physical beings. So the analogy I was given, and some of you may have heard this, I talked about it before, I've talked about it several times in the last month, was the speeding car on a road, right? That timeline of the Great Flood is like a car speeding at 90 miles an hour down a highway. But what happens is our consciousness creates speed bumps on that highway. So as that car is now speeding 90 miles an hour, but it hits our dimension and our consciousness today, which is a different vibrational energy than when it happened, things are going to change. So we create these speed bumps in that highway. So now this car can't go 90 miles an hour, right? Between those speed bumps, it's got to slow down and pick up speed again, slow down and pick up speed again. Well, what are we seeing taking place on the planet? A variety of things popping up, right? Events, right? Hurricanes, earthquakes, all of these things. I'm not saying those aren't horrible experiences. The energy in this room, I know, we feel for all of that. But I think that we're actually, I'll rephrase this. I think, based on what my guides have told me, is that these eruptions are opportunities for us to create more of those speed bumps. Okay, so as these timelines erupt, the way we respond and the way we walk through them as a collective has everything to do with the way they'll happen again. We interact in history all of the time. So we have a vibrational record, and that vibrational record is always activated. So we think we're creating things anew, and we are creating things anew, but there's always a platform for our creation. And that platform is energetic. It's things that have happened before. It's who we've been before, right? And I'll give you an example. In our soul energy, and I do a lot of private sessions, so you in the room who have done sessions with me know the way this works. The guides will often come in and raise up dimensional timelines of past or future to show you who you've been in other aspects of reality. And the reason that they do that is often because you're integrating those aspects right now. Because they're valid to who you are in the moment and who you're becoming, right? So they're often things that you guys know. They're things you've already been looking into. They're things that already excite you. And on a planetary scale, we're doing this as well. We're raising the bar on the way that we operate here in history, but it's collective. So what the guides have talked a lot about is the way in which these planetary energies are erupting and being projected on our planet isn't necessarily the energy we should be tuning into in a vibrational way, in fear, in negativity, because when we do that, those speed bumps, they kind of go away, right? Because we already know that we're creators. We know how we affect all things. We've seen in our lives the way we manifest. The way I manifested my healing, the way you've manifested your healing. It's energetic. Right? We have concrete reality, manifestations of concrete reality. But when we go back into that physical vibration and we are participating in that energy from a state of fear, right? Or we're projecting that into the future, more events are going to happen. I'm going to end up in that event. I need to prepare. I need to do this. I need to do that. This solar eclipse is really taking us beyond that type of reaction. And it's helping us to understand that, yes, these things are happening, and yes, we are human, and yes, we are going to come together, and we are going to energetically and physically heal and reunite and rebirth and all of this stuff. But we have to have the faith and the knowing that that response is making a difference. And I think that before this eclipse, and, I guess for eons here, we've lost a little bit of faith in humanity, And our awakening has been a big part of that, right? I mean, how many of us, we think of our awakening as such a positive thing, and I think that it is, but sometimes when we awaken, we really lose faith in humanity, and we can disconnect ourselves from what's happening on the planet because of that. But yet at the same time, we cannot disconnect ourselves from anything that happens on the planet. So I want to talk a little bit about this dimensional split and weave that into the conversation. And the reptilian consciousness, which is a big aspect of my work. So when I started to channel, something that I knew nothing about but was told very early on was that there's a reptilian consciousness here that exists on this planet. And that reptilian consciousness is the reason we have so many things going on that are not to our liking. And that was kind of scary information for me to hear in my awakening. But what they told me was, this is a consciousness. This is energy, right? So we don't have to go to battle with anything physical here. We have more effect on these reptilians through our consciousness than any other tool that we have in our toolbox. The split of timelines has a lot to do with the way that we're seeing the difference between where our consciousness has risen to or remains at and where our physical reality has taken us. So the third and the fifth dimensional split is something that's been a little misunderstood, right? We often think of awakening and the third dimension as being kind of a negative place. We think, oh, those third dimensional people, they don't get it. They don't know what's going on, right? Can't have this conversation with them. But that's not it at all. That's not the split, all right? What you're feeling is the vibrational difference and the difference in consciousness. Here's what I've been told. This is some new information that came in just this morning. So I downloaded an article this morning about vibrational speed. So I had been told, and if you've been following my channeling several months ago, that this split of dimension at the same time was going to be aligned with an amplification of the grids. So the grids were amplified. We've had a really big shakeout and a shift from that. A lot of us who are extra sensitive know that's not been an easy transition, right? It's been very emotional, very rocky. But what they said was when that grid energy leveled out, that humans on the planet will be vibrating in the same speed. And we think, that's not possible because that guy down the street who I can get along with can't possibly be vibrating at the same speed as me. But remember, there's different dimensional energies of consciousness and reality we're creating through. So what if this guy down the street is vibrating the same as you at the same speed, but he's operating in a different dimensional reality? So let's consider that for a minute. So the next question would be, why do we have to vibrate at the same speed? What's the whole purpose of that? That's where this reptilian consciousness comes in. All right, so if you've been following my work, you know that this reptilian consciousness feeds off of hierarchies. Hierarchies in all areas. That's hierarchies in our lives. Oh my gosh, she's so much better than I am. That's hierarchies at work. That's hierarchies in our government. All of these hierarchical structures that we subscribe to keep this reptilian consciousness able to create through our energy. Okay? That's what we're doing in our awakening, is we're stripping away the hierarchies. You know, our collective is coming together in a vibrational speed that's not allowing these hierarchies to exist. So everything has to happen energetically before it happens physically. So for us to vibrate at the same speed, that's the first level of hierarchy energy. We take it beyond the identity, the government, looking in the mirror, you know, all this other thing. Energetically, down to the core, when we vibrate at the same speed, that's the first area of neutrality in a hierarchical system. What that means is good news. Because if we're all vibrating at the same speed, right, we're on the cusp here of taking these hierarchies down. It's just like you creating something in your energy and all of a sudden it manifests in physical, and there's a lag time, right? We know that. There's a lag time that exists. All of this solar eclipse energy started this for us in the amplification of the grids and helping us to vibrate the same. Now, the dimensional split causes a little bit of a crux here because those third dimensional beings vibrating at the same speed have the same ability to create in a manifestation, you know, in I will say, they have the same ability to manifest in the same speed that you do. Okay? So, if they're looking at these events on the planet in fear, we have a little problem, right? Because now, energetically, we're pulling things together in a way that doesn't serve us so much. Okay? So it's not about conscious and unconscious, because we can be awakened and very conscious and still be really pissed off about what's going on the planet and hold that energy in a way that isn't serving this shift. It's okay to be pissed off. Right? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. But when we hold on to it and we continue to spill it out all over the place, project it into the future, lose faith in humanity, right? That's a third dimensional energy. So many of us who are vibrating in a more fifth dimensional consciousness, we're interacting and reacting to these planetary energies in a way that I would say holds the frequency of neutrality. And many of you who follow me understand what neutrality is. It's a very controversial topic, I know. Neutrality doesn't mean we don't care. Neutrality doesn't mean we pretend nothing's going wrong. Neutrality is we hold the faith. We hold the energy, we interact, we react, but we also know that some of us aren't meant to interact with what's going on the planet in a deliberate physical way. Many are called to do that, and many are meant to do that. What if what you're doing right now in your life, in your soul energy, has such a tremendous effect on what's going on the planet, that if you continued down that path, that healing would take place? That's what the guides keep bringing up. we forget. We get so singularly focused that we have to go, we have to do, we have to take care of. Honoring our truth and living in that record and doing the things that we're led to do makes a far bigger impact energetically than all of that other stuff. And we're going to be shown the way that we're supposed to support. We're going to be led to that place that we're supposed to be. But we get so entrenched, right, in the media and all of these projections and things. So my wish in all of this, as it has come through, is that you understand how truly important you are vibrationally to this shift. Not because you're meant to go out and do, but because you're meant to be the aspect of these new timeline energies that we're bringing forward. These opportunities that we see coming up are raising the bar on our consciousness, and we're getting to choose what dimension we want to operate in, what reality we want to be a part in. And it's subtle, you know? It's not something big. And when you step into that subtle energy, you'll begin to see that you'll be guided in the right place at the right time. And I think that we're on a good path. And I hold the space and the love and the connection to all of you, and knowing that, because these events that we see happening, they're probably going to continue for a little bit. You know, and I don't say that to put anyone in fear. But remember those speed bumps. We created those speed bumps that have slowed a lot of this down, and we can continue to do that. Okay. Any questions, comments, things I can answer about myself, channeling? Yes?
Could you just go back to the speed bump part for a moment?
Absolutely.
I missed something there.
Yes.
The eclipse took place. That created the speed bump.
Yes. Well, no, we're creating the speed bumps. So what happened with this eclipse, I believe, is that there are a lot of what I'll call dense timeline cords of history that had to come to the surface for us to interact with and heal and reorganize. So that car on the road, and I'll just use one example because we're having a lot of hurricanes right now, and the Great Flood is something that was brought to my attention in a channeling. That timeline of the Great Flood is within Mother Earth as a karmic energy. It's something that we've all connected to in one way or another. The eclipse brought that timeline or that road to the surface. And there's a car traveling down that road, and that's that event, okay? And we know we repeat things. I mean, how many of us in our lives have had repeating timelines, repeating relationships, right? All these things. It's the same for the Earth. We repeat timeline energy, we repeat history. So that car going at 90 miles an hour is that Great Flood event, ready to catapult again here on our Earth. But we create the speed bumps through our consciousness, our vibration. So just being who we are right now in this moment when that eclipse happened caused those speed bumps on that road. It slowed down that moving car that could have manifested in something very similar, because we are not the same human race that we were then. Yes. And so what happens is now, in between those speed bumps, that car is still moving, right? That train is still moving, that Great Flood energy, whatever it was. We're having smaller, right, more localized events that are popping up at a slower speed in between these quote-unquote speed bumps. But our consciousness causes those bumps in the road. And it affects the speed of vibration of these timelines that are erupting through Mother Earth. And it's the same with you, right? When you have a karmic timeline erupt, and we've evolved ourselves to understand the way to react, don't we walk through those karmic timelines a little easier than we did before? I know I do. I mean, I'm not happy that they're showing themselves to me, and I'm not, thrilled to walk through them, but I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. Energetically, I know the way I need to respond to this. And it's now a collective focus. Does that make sense? Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Michaela, there's another solar eclipse that is supposed to happen, I think, April of 2024, and it's almost like X marks the spot right across the United States. Last one going from northwest down to the Carolinas, this one, I believe, from southwest up into the northeast. So is there a significance to the fact that it's happening right in the United States like that? And is that part of the karmic cleansing that I've also heard related to Atlantis, that some of the shadows that are rising to the surface. Is that correct?
I would really like for you to ask that question of the guides when we channel.
Okay.
But what I'm going to say, and because I don't feel that I can personally respond to that whole question, but I feel that the significance of the United States has a lot to do with this reptilian energy, because I think that it's become more localized and focused here. I mean, not that it's not everywhere, right? But you can tell those planetary shifts, they've all gone, right, around the planet in different areas. And I just think it was our time. It was our record, right? It's a bigger question to answer, because our soul energy is interacting with all of this. And I had, I can't remember where I brought this up, but I did have some channeled material about how do people end up in hurricanes? How do people end up in earthquakes? Why them? What's the location? And the guide said, well, you have to imagine the co-conspiring that takes place in order to be in those situations. You know, whether you're there responding or you're there, you know, being affected, your soul energy has a collaborative agreement with the earth and with many others. So it's just a myriad of things. It's a ladder, you know. So it's hard to focus on that one thing and say why, but I really want to know what the guides say to that. So if you could ask that question when I channel, that'd be great. And I am a trance channel, as Ethan described, so I am pretty much out of the picture. I might come in if needed to explain visions or things. We usually get a general message, and then there's time for questions. We are the Pleiadian Collective. We are the 9th Dimensional Pleiadian Collective. We are honored, of course, to be connected to all of you in this time who have assembled here. It is our intention to bring forth a message in regards to the topics you have been discussing today. It is our intention to also clarify vibrational speed, as well as the way in which you interact with that vibrational speed. We also come today to present information on the magnetic speed of Mother Gaia and the way in which your soul is interacting with that magnetic speed, and we are pleased to do so. We wish for you to understand that all beings who are human were created in the likeness of a 12-strand DNA. That 12-strand DNA holds information and connects to a grid. That grid of information that many of you may understand as the universal record holds more than just your planetary energy. It contains timeline information and experiences from other beings and other dimensions. As this grid has been amplified, many of you are finding that your interdimensional experiences are being accessed in a quicker speed. Your extrasensory gifts are evolving, and the chakras are becoming more interacted with Mother Gaia. In other words, those of you who are more what we would call extrasensory in your perception have been feeling these shifts of the grid in waves of energy. These waves of energy, of course, are coming faster now with the physical manifestations that you have experienced. Now, it is our intention to assist you in understanding the relationship between the soul energy, the collective human race, as well as the universe. You are God in motion. God is universe, and universe stands as an alignment of frequencies and energies. It is a living, breathing organism, God and the universe, very much equal to you, but on a much grander scale and vibrating in a far higher frequency. You also understand that planetarily, you are a human consciousness, meaning you are a one organism of light. So imagine now that universal God frequency manifesting itself as a singular collective of one race, being human. This is who you have been created to be. That organism vibrates, it has a magnetic speed, and it also has a structure in which connects to the universal time grid. Your soul energy is a separate organism. That organism, in connection to the universe, God, and your planetary collective, is vibrating at a speed by which you experience a collective reality through your own separate perception. That perception is what we wish to focus on today. Many of you perceive reality through a filter of your judgments, your ego, your identity, the way in which you have been raised here, the way in which your family has taught you to perceive. And we know that many of you who have been focused on your soul energy have been working to minimize or eliminate some of the programs that no longer serve you as a singular soul. Meaning that the tool of perception now has become expanded. Your tool of perception is your consciousness. The way in which you perceive is equal to the resonance of your field of creation. So as you have worked on these imprints of the soul and begin to perceive in a more collective way, that vibration must have an effect on the dimension that your human race holds. So each one of you, as you have been working within the soul container, we will call it, has had an opportunity to amplify the energy of the collective human race. And so you have. But now, as your planet is evolving, there are many situations that are coming to your awareness that are not to your liking. Many of these situations have been spoken of in this format today. But we wish to take this a step further to help you explain the way in which the human consciousness connects to the universal time grid and how you're operating in your God energy to resolve these manifestations. You see, as a soul vibration, you often call yourselves to the table of physicality. And that physicality, being a beautiful tool of your experience, holds the frequency equal to that of God. Yet non-physical, and the attention or perception of the non-physical, has not been an integrated part of that perception. You have recognized there is a non-physical and a physical. And oftentimes you perceive your reality in these two separate perceptions. Yes, I have a physical life and I have physical family members and there are problems that I must address and bills that I must pay. And there is a collective reality and that reality has its problems and its issues too. Yet I will go to meditation and I will experience another reality that is non-physical. And that non-physical reality will change my situation, and often it does. But you see, in order to truly hold a fifth dimensional energy here, the way in which Mother Gaia has by design offered a series of events allow you to now integrate your physical and non-physical experiences and perceptions as one. We call to magnetics. You are magnetic beings. What that means is everything that you perceive becomes a reality in some timeline in the universe. However, you may not be operating on that timeline in your physical perception. Magnetics are a crucial component of physical manifestation, and magnetics start in the field of your vibratory essence. So we've talked much about the soul container, the higher self or the planetary container, and now we will add in the universal container. You have support. You see, as the portals have been opened and as the grid lines have been activated, there are many races of beings that are now here in abundance to assist. They are non-physical in their energy. Some of them may choose to manifest into physical form when the human consciousness is ready for that perception of reality. Yet, they hold timeline record information. So as you are collaborating in non-physical, as you are traveling through your meditations, you may be inspired with ideas, creative ideas, things that you have done here before, things that you have done in other dimensional realities that are bringing themselves back to the planet through you. This, my friends, is what we wish for you to focus on. Because the integration of your soul energy carrying forth A divine record that is engaged through your non-physical becomes integrated in physical very easily now, with the way in which the planet is vibrating and the magnetics that are offered. Manifestation is not a tool, it is not a practice. Manifestation is a part of your structure. It is within your technology. Your technology is not physical. It is held within your DNA. And it's a crystalline source that, when you remember to perceive through, allows a chain reaction to take place. It heightens the response between your soul activity, the collective, and those beings that are here to assist. Those beings have a very special purpose indeed. They are interconnecting with the timeline grids and the records to bring positive timeline information to you and to your collective. So our intention today is to ask you to act on those inspired actions. Because although they may seem non-physical to you, they are quite potent in the way they supply and source for you and others the healing of your planet. We have been very pleased to bring this message forward, and we are pleased to take questions.
First question, how can I clear fear of extraterrestrial energies and beings?
We are the Pleiadians. Fear is only a structure of your extrasensory abilities. It is not a choice that you must make. It is an opportunity to express in the moment a feeling that is complementary to your being. And we want to truly help you understand the relationship of fear that is positive in your physical energy. You see, you were given a structure, and that structure holds many different energetic bodies. One of these energetic bodies is the emotional body. And that emotional body is a critical aspect of your manifestation. As you are feeling the extrasensory energy of fear, for example, that fear is meant to set off a chain reaction that starts within your physical energy body and goes beyond it in order to serve yourself and humanity. Think now very simply to the way in which your body responds to fear in your singular experience. Let us say there is a noise that you hear in the middle of the night, and that noise causes a fear vibration in you. That fear vibration gets you out of bed in order to investigate what that noise is, in order to keep you and your family safe. That is the appropriate use of your structure as it was intended. You've been taught fear as a part of your reality that is false. This is the energetic manipulation of the mind. So a process to assist you in this would be to tune into the vibration of fear to really find its origination point in your energy fields. Is that fear erupting from an organic state of your reality? Or is that fear coming from a construct of the mind? Because that fear that brought you out of bed at night was an automatic response. It started in the emotional body and it set off a chain reaction going through your body, heightening your senses to respond to a situation. But the fear that many of you are feeling is a mind interaction that has been taught to you by what we would call a reptilian consciousness that has manifested aspects of your reality that are not suiting to you. So when you are feeling this fear of other beings, extra dimensionals, of things erupting on your planet, we always ask you to first take a breath. The breath is the crystalline source of energy that connects you to God. Breath is a very valuable tool, for it will reset your conscious awareness and your structure to source energy. And in that moment, after that breath, take a moment to reflect to the source of the fear. Fear that comes from the emotional body is typically felt in the body, and it is a present moment frequency. The fear that you often feel around interacting with interdimensionals, extra dimensionals, or activities that are happening on your planet is often not a present moment frequency. If you are always resetting yourself back to present moment, which is neutrality, you're always resetting yourself back to source energy. Oftentimes, there are humans that have interactions with interdimensionals that are very misunderstood. Your consciousness is not able to accept the vibrational experience as it is taking place. So what happens within your consciousness is that it interprets the information through experience that it already knows. Well, oftentimes, these experiences that you already know come from a reptilian source. Perhaps a book that you read or a movie that you watched. This is much of the problem that we see on your planet with disclosure. It is that there's a projection that is taking place of the way in which extra-dimensional and interdimensional contact has taken place through time and space and through history. And there are embedded imprints within you that default to that and cause fear. So again, we ask you to come to the present moment and filter your consciousness through a different reality. And that is that everything that you are experiencing, you are co-creating. Interdimensionals, although they may feel as if they are treading on your space, are often coming to interact with you based on collaborative agreements that were made through your soul energy before you arrived in this physical body. And they do continue to. The one final aspect of this that we wish to explain is the essence of free will. And that we remind you, as human beings with a structure that vibrates through universal law as a free will entity, abductions could not physically take place. That in some way, your soul energy would have to co-conspire in the experience in order for it to be an aspect of your reality through free will.
Why is the focus on reptilian consciousness? Aren't we empowering the wrong energy, and how do we decide to be powerful?
We are the Pleiadians. We come to explain the reptilian consciousness not to place your structure in fear. We do believe that empowerment and the ability to raise your consciousness and interact with physical in a way that is fifth dimensional is the best course of action in order to dismantle what has happened here. The reason it is important to understand about this reptilian consciousness has more to do with your physical reality and understanding that the protection you have placed around yourselves and the interactions that you feel you must take with the physical reality due to this reptilian consciousness are leading you down a path that is not allowing progression to take place. And we will give you an example. Many of you do not understand that some of your physical reality has been manifested through this reptilian consciousness and their creation through your energy. And we will bring up one specific example, and that is of your food supply. Your food supply, much of it has been tainted with a vibrational essence that is not equal to its organic state of humanity. And you may take the path of trying to understand why this is taking place, and many of you may come to the conclusion that money is the culprit. Money is only a physical manifestation of a consciousness. So that cannot be the root cause of why this is taking place. It is our intention to help those realize that the manifestation of your food supply comes directly from a creative source energy that is working through humans in order to manifest a physical reality. Everything that you see on your planet like this in this time is geared towards limiting your access to DNA, reducing your ability to connect as a one collective, and lowering your vibration. Now, just because this reptilian consciousness exists does not mean that you must be disempowered in your experience here. What is important to note is that your creative ability far overrides that of this reptilian consciousness. When you are creating in physical, you are using your energy in a certain vibrational speed. And that vibrational speed is a bit lower than when you are manifesting through your creative source energy and using your physical experience to create an alignment with what your soul record holds. Your soul record must be observed by you through a full aspect of your DNA. Many are awakening to this. When their DNA becomes activated, they become engaged in creating in a different way. And that, my friends, is what overrides this reptilian consciousness. It is not interacting with them, it is not being in fear of them, it is not trying to dismantle them through the physical. It's creating through a pure energy of light source consciousness beyond what the physical holds for you on this planetary Earth. So we believe it's important that your consciousness understand that many things you are seeing manifested are not manifested through a soul energy. They're manifested through a collective energy. And that collective energy is either humanity or reptilian in this time. The reptilians who are here, the consciousness that is here, they are, through this process, meant to be reintegrated back into their original race. There was a cataclysmic event that happened within their race, within their structure, and a new timeline was formed. And in that new timeline, this reptilian consciousness or race found that it could not create in physical. And it found itself in a very physical vibration. But you see, as your consciousness is interacting with Mother Earth and many of the events that you see taking place now, you are integrating your physical and non-physical to the degree that this collective human race is becoming far more powerful. And what we would say is many of the hierarchies that you have spoken of here are already being dismantled because of that purpose. So being in your power includes awareness. And being in your power includes creating beyond what you see in physical.
Can you explain who the Anunnaki are?
We are pleased. The council comes in, and we have the Anunnaki here as well. We are the Anunnaki. We are 12th dimensional beings. We are pleased to relate to our history as it has been asked. There are many of us that exist in different dimensional planes of reality, and we have a very great history, although we wish to speak to the history that is most vibrationally important for those who are here, as well as for your planet Earth. You see, as we are 12th dimensional, we are one of the original races of this universal grid that you are connected to. Our original structure held a connection to light source consciousness that has continued to create vibrationally through God many other races. So the ancient Anunnaki, the ones who were first formed in the likeness of God and manifested through creative source energy, held an intention. And that intention was to create other races in the likeness of their own 12-strand DNA. Now, just as you are humans and you operate very uniquely in your soul energy, there is an aspect of our race that also has operated very uniquely in its soul energy. Some of the ancient Anunnaki were, we would say, lowered in their frequency, but we don't say that in a way to make it sound negative. Lowered in their frequency in order to become physical beings, to access other planetary structures. One of those was your planet Earth. When your planet Earth was formed and human beings were first manifested, many of these ancient Anunnaki who manifested in a fifth dimensional energy structure to be present on your Earth at this time were involved in the construction of various portals and energy centers. They also became responsible for teaching many of the humans of the time how to interact energetically with time portals in order to manifest. These beings that you know of who were here operating in ancient elements also took a great interest in the way in which Mother Earth supplied natural resources. Those natural resources were seeded here from other races, and the Anunnaki collaborated in that seeding. These elements manifested into a new form. So much of what was seeded here became elemental because Mother Earth offered a different vibration. Our race became very interested in the elements because as they were manifesting here in a higher dimensional energy, they could be used elsewhere in the universe as a source consciousness. We also are keepers of vibrational history to some degree. Our 12th dimensional structure allows us to tap into the time grids and operate in portal energies. We have not accessed your Earth in our vibrational form in we'll say very many years. The reason for this is that our presence here was not necessary and not vibrating equal to what your ascension timeline required. We have recently allowed access through the universal time grid to our 12th dimensional energies, meaning that 12th dimensional Anunnaki beings are now lending their support and their connection to the time grid and history to your portal energies. We are present in the activation of your portals, and we also are present in the activation of your time grids that connect to your source energy through your soul. We find ourselves often connecting with healers on this time on your planet. The healers that work with us are most affecting the universal time grid, meaning they are working within the records to reorganize timeline information. We also hold a direct connection to many other races and work in a collaborative effort. We support the energies of the Council of Light, which is the 12th dimensional council that oversees the grids. We also have a very strong connection to the heart chakra, and we're responsible for understanding the way that the chakras on Earth and humans would connect multidimensionally to the chakras of Gaia as a living, breathing organism. We have time portal energy that allows us to connect those chakra energies for the betterment of humanity, and so it is that we are doing that as we are permitted.
With regard to the singularity that's spoken of in the mainstream, is this an artificial intelligence singularity that's coming or a collective singularity?
We are the Pleiadians. We're pleased to speak of artificial intelligence in the way that singularity is projected on your planet. And again, we must default to a reptilian consciousness. You see, many of you wish to point fingers to the people, the structures, the hierarchies that are here on your planet that exist, that are projecting into your human race with this singular type of tool. What we very simply would say to this is that these hierarchies, these structures, these forms of government or artificial intelligence would not exist if this reptilian consciousness was not present. And we see the beginnings of the unraveling of these structures due to your consciousness raising and due to the energy of your soul being more connected as a collective consciousness. Now, these tools of singularity exist to maintain a singular perception. And this is why we came in with a very strong message today about perception and consciousness being the most valuable tool of humanity. Because when you begin to perceive yourself as more than just your singular structure, the collective energy will always benefit because you'll be making decisions and using an awareness that operates in a higher dimensional frequency. That higher dimensional frequency does not allow this reptilian consciousness to create through you. So the creation of these artificial intelligence tools ultimately is through a reptilian consciousness that desires to create through your energy to maintain their creative ability, meaning the preservation of their race. The preservation of your race relies upon your perception of humanity being collective, so that as you are walking through experience, it is not creating you density because your singular perception cannot see the collaborative and co-conspiring, the collaborative agreements and co-conspiring that takes place between you and your planet. The reliance on that has enabled a structure to change its shape. When we talk about structure, and this is the Arcturians actually that stepped in, so pleased to welcome the 8th dimensional Arcturians. They want to speak to structure for a moment. This reptilian consciousness understands that you are a structure of one, but using these tools of separation has caused a disconnection in your structural field. This is a huge component of manifestation. You are meant to source through your vibration everything that is needed in order for you to expand. But this singular perception has broken the structure, enabling you to stay focused in your own singular soul activity, to believe that you must use physical force in order to source your reality. This is also why your collective structure has been broken. But we come to explain that the chakras are connected intricately to this structure. So those of you who are working within the vibrational energies of the chakras have a distinct, what we'll call advantage, not to your singular soul, but an advantage to humanity and to yourself, to source within this structure for the benefit of you and the benefit of humanity. We want to do a very quick process for all of you who are here, and we ask that you just relax in your space as you are seated. Relaxing into your space with your arms, with uncrossed legs, beginning to feel the spine very straight, holding yourself straight through the consciousness of the higher self, which sits at the base of the neck. This is what we wish to activate today. We bring in the crystal breath and ask you to continue to breathe at the most comfortable pace for you and for a rhythm that we will begin to initiate here in this room, using all of the vibrational portals that are open and available to us here in this space. Finding that breath, finding that comfort. We ask you to place your awareness on a field of energy around your physical body. Begin to notice the way that temperature feels around your body, the essence of light or color or sound that you sense outside of the physical body. And with the next breath, focusing in on the back of the throat, there are 2 crystals at the base of the neck that activate the higher self. They connect to the spine. They create a sacred geometric pattern that connects you to the entire collective. As you begin to take a breath and feel those crystalline energies vibrating, begin to let go of your physicality, seeing the connection between you and your neighbor energetically, feeling the connection between you and the entire space, vibrating into this field that connects all things. And now with the breath and the higher self engaged, we take you through the chakras one at a time. We start with the root, knowing that many of you have activated the chakras below the root, plugging into the crystalline source of Mother Gaia. Feel that crystalline source vibrating now within this space, activating the root, supplying light. Raise that light through the root up through the sacral, breathing very easily through the solar plexus and the heart. Any resistance that you feel, using that space around you to calm the resistance. Knowing that this grid that exists in this space holds everything that you need to release energies of resistance that are held within. Moving through the throat, into the pineal, And now with a final breath through the crown, begin to feel the illumination of this grid. You as a soul, sourcing all things through all things. You as a soul, activating all things through all things. You as a collective consciousness, sourcing all things through all things. Take another final breath. And what we ask you to do is feeling this grid, feeling this energy, pulling that through the heart, plugging it in. The areas of your structure that have been broken now become repaired. The collective energies that you need to source and need to be sourced through you become apparent. The ways that you must respond to your planet become clear. And the clarity that you feel coming from the higher self, now interacting with this collective structure in its fullest intent. And finally, activating the DNA, feeling that DNA begin to vibrate in its crystalline energy. That crystalline energy that holds all information for you and others. And so it is. And I ask you to bring yourself back into your space and relax into the next message.
Are the recent weather phenomena, earthquakes, and hurricanes man-made?
We are the Pleiadians. We come to also answer this question. You see, there are many aspects of your reality that are causing the eruptions of physical that you are seeing take place. But everything must start energetically. The basis of all physical manifestation begins as vibration. So the man-made activities you speak of, they indeed are taking place. There is manipulation of your structural energy. There is manipulation of your weather patterns to assist in keeping your DNA separate of its full structure. And there is man-made assistance in projecting fear around these weather patterns. But at the root core of these eruptions is history. It is karma. It is the record of Mother Gaia coming to the surface, interacting with the consciousness that is here on your planet. Now, we must say that in this dimensional split, we see some difference in the way creation is taking place. As has been alluded to, there are many who are operating fully awake and in the similar vibration of those who are in the fifth dimension that hold a different frequency for creation, and that is the dimensional space in which they perceive reality. So, to a degree, we could answer this question as yes, the result of the energies culminating in experience are coming through man. And some of this is focused through what we would call an activation of the reptilian genome within the center of your human structure. And yes, that there are some on your planet who are vibrating in this reptilian consciousness and acting on behalf of it. But none of this would take place, and much of it will be cleared through your ascension process, through your ascension timeline. Remember, the catalyst for all of this is energy, and we would go back to the analogy that was discussed previously of the car on the road, as we have been ones who have brought this analogy forward. We say that the timelines that you are experiencing, especially now on your planet during this dimensional split, have a great significance. They must be cleared in order for the new technologies and new forms of vibrational manifestation through your consciousness to appear. So these timelines were timed in an essence to vibrationally erupt now. But again, it is a co-conspiring, a collaborative effort. All of you have a hand in collective manifestation. That collective manifestation may be the result of you changing that timeline for the better. And we may not see the better as humans in what is evolving. Yet, if you were to see from our vantage point, we would say that you have done much work in the way these timelines have erupted. Much of them have been stifled. They have been slowed. They have been vibrationally changed through your awareness and through your consciousness. So continuing down this path allows these historic timelines to change, not just in this present moment, but in the future and in the past as well. You see, there's a platform here on this planet that is being created. And if you think back to the times of ancient Atlantis, for example, when crystalline technologies were used for healing and communication, that is a part of the structural platform. But these events, they are not a part of that structure. So the eruption of them took place in order to dismantle them, in order for humanity to understand how to interact with them and how energetically powerful they were in reorganizing them. Becoming more collective is the key to this reptilian consciousness and these man-made events to no longer erupt here on this planet.
I tend to view the current world situation as cleansing and purifying, just as something sometimes is necessary to debride a wound so it can heal optimally. Painful, but healing for Mother Gaia. Does this resonate with you?
We get Mary Magdalene to answer this question. She's very pleased to be a part of this experience. And on behalf of Gaia, she speaks. As Gaia is a living, breathing being, the divine feminine energies are coming back to activate your divine Christed genome. That divine Christed genome, it exists within all of you, and it exists within her. When you are cleansing yourselves, you are vibrationally aligning to that Christed energy. When she is cleansing herself, she is vibrationally aligning to the Christed energy as well. This divine feminine presence must be cleared of all masculine activity in order to come to the balance that is needed. So these activities that you see erupting on your planet, they are not made solely of the masculine energy. They hold within them a catalyst for expanding the female within all beings, to restoring the planetary being back to her true essence, and restoring all of you in the process. As you continue to walk through these timelines, imagine that Christed DNA, that genome within you, activating by your every energetic connection to humanity. Because that is the true purpose of her cleansing process. And we will go beyond the word cleanse. We will say restore. Because what is happening is a true restoration, an activation, a release, and a harmonization back to the balance of divinity, which in its true essence is masculine and feminine in all things.
What's the significance of the solar eclipse in the U.S. that's visible in the U.S. in August 2017, and the next one, April 2024? Is this part a karmic clearing related to the fall of Atlantis or clearing shadows?
The Arcturians, we are pleased to answer this question, and we come in to speak to structure because as you have just done a recent activation here in this collective space, to imagine yourselves beyond your singular experience, your planet also holds a structure. And that structure is divinely timed. Just as you've come in as a singular soul with a plan, knowing that The time that you chose would revolve around a planetary structure of the universe to call forth information and opportunities. Mother Gaia has the same. And that record being a grid allows all of her participants, meaning her connections to humanity, to experience a part of her record in divine time. So the fact that these eclipses have been focused on the United States here in your area have much to do with the way in which this grid aligns to the timing of her record. And you will see this unfold as well in many other areas. The record unfolding in divine time to connect to all aspects of humanity in all locations. Now, we will go a step further to say that here in the United States, we believe there has been the most vibrational movement in consciousness. In other words, there is a calling forth of activity based on the record and a response. So although this solar eclipse was timed appropriately to Mother Gaia's record for this distinct location, your raise in vibration here in this location is contributing to that record and is manifesting in a certain way. Now, we've talked much today about hierarchies within this structure. We believe that many of the hierarchies here in the United States hold a great significance to much that is happening planetarily. And there's been a slower speed here in this location of shift previously. Solar activities have been very intense here, especially in this area, and many have been responding to those solar intense frequencies in a rapid energy. So not only does the calling come from humanity and the location of humanity, the soul record is also engaged. It's very similar, and we will say, we will add into this discussion the way in which human beings find themselves in the midst of different tragedies that take place on your planet. Your consciousness, your vibration, and your soul record have everything to do with how you co-conspire in these events, and will continue because you are a singular soul having this collaborative effect on all things. So your soul energy has a record, and that record is both singular and collective. So the collective record of humanity that lives in the United States in this time all had a singular component that vibrationally matched one another. Think of the power in that statement. All of you co-conspiring in one location on the planet vibrate similarly in the same divine time that an alignment of Gaia took place. Quite powerful, is it not? This is how evolution, expansion takes place. Much of it is decided before you come. Much of it is held within your record. And it's magnetized to attract the people, the places, the things, the experiences that are needed to assist it in its expansion.
How do we become comfortable with beingness instead of always trying to get to the destination?
Archangel Gabriel steps forward. He's very pleased. On behalf of the Master Collective, I'm always willing to assist in these questions, knowing that the earthbound experience is always of significance in the way in which your planet is evolving. The physical field of your reality is still of much importance and will continue to be of much importance in the way in which you act and react. The doing has been defined by humanity. The being has also been defined, oftentimes, outside of your singular structure. What is happening now with the planetary shifts is that many of you are redefining doing and being. Think now of every experience that you have. In reality, every human being, although they're in a collective energy, takes separate meaning away from that reality. You, as a singular structure, are defining everything as appropriate to you. But doing in the physical isn't necessarily wrong. Being something that you are not does not allow the doing to complement who you are becoming. So it is not about stepping away from the doing so much as it is aligning your energy for the being in order to allow this, what has just been activated as a collective connection, to support the doing. What many of you forget is that you are a fragmented energy of the universe or God in motion. And that connection, that structure that was just repaired and activated works for you when you remember that identity first. But so many of you have placed God outside, and so many of you have judged your activities through others. But there is no one path that you can perceive outside of yourself that could be the doing that you are here to create. So our advice to you is this: begin to step into the being more often. And then evaluate the doing as to the way it connects to the being. You see, you were given this beautiful vibrational structure of emotion to support and navigate through this earth experience. So your emotional body becomes the true key. If it is feeling hard or feeling resistant, or feeling as if something is not working for you, you can most likely be guaranteed that your energy, your identity is not aligned with the doing. Not to say that human experience is easy. Being physical beings involves physical activity, and the most resistant area we see for humans is decision making. Because the doing often requires making a decision. And this is where much of the resistance is held. So when you find yourself moving from that state of being into doing, and you are faced with making decisions, begin to recognize the judgment and the projection outside of that singular structure, that imprint that you have, and how it holds you back from decision making. You see, a decision is only an energetic attunement. When you make a decision, you are adjusting the frequency of your reality. What happens on the other side is unknown. But as you walk through that experience, your soul is always going to be directed back to God and expansion, because that is how your structure was designed. Imagine the spiral. You are that spiral. Imagine the sacred geometry. You are that sacred geometry. There is no path unbroken. So recognizing that resistance in the decision-making can hold you back from creation, we suggest making the decision and then being in the present moment through the experience on the other side to navigate you beyond into the next. Physical reality is changing, and the speed of vibration here is faster. What that means is that when you're very connected to a true purpose and intention, that intention becomes so solidly aligned magnetically that that grid begins to work for you. It begins to draw and magnetize and connect. And you must stay within the present moment frequency to really see how this grid is working for you. The problem is that many human beings have been taught to focus their mind outside of the present moment, and they're always planning for the future. Planning for the future isn't necessarily a negative thing as long as your energy is aligned. But in decision making and in the recognition of your soul energy, staying in that present moment frequency will allow a faster speed of manifestation to take place that is available for you now on this planet. So we ask that you continue to use that faster speed by bringing yourself back to that identity, that present moment. In the being, the doing is presented.
What can we do to get past blocks that are not allowing us to go into the higher mystical states of consciousness?
We're getting we're getting serious energy coming in for this. We are the Syrian Collective. We offer for you great joy, great tidings of love, and of harmonic balance in this time. Many of you are holding specific star codes that exist within your structure. These star codes, as we call them, have a timed frequency to erupt when your consciousness is aligned with a specific activity. You see, many of you are working on ascension courses and activations and meditations and processes, and these are all pathways to be able to open these star centers that exist within you. But the true manifestation of the connection that you desire may be specifically timed within your structure to an event, to an experience that you are here to create, or to an understanding that you are meant to be led to. You see, one of the most prominent experiences of the human race that we notice is that they have an expectation around how they must connect to the multidimensional universe. Yet if you are to look around this room, you will see that you are all unique in the way you've manifested here as singular souls. That uniqueness is working through specific pathways of the soul, meaning that you could not access the multidimensional universe exactly the same. Many of you are holding resistance to the way that it must be presented. And if you begin to release that resistance and widen your focus, you will begin to notice that your extrasensory tools will take you on the journey, and those star codes within you will erupt in divine time. And you will find yourself interacting with the multidimensional universe in exactly the right way that your unique structure calls for. However, we wish to preface this all by saying that you are already connected to the multidimensional universe. Many of you are integrated with it in a way that knowing is presented. Yet you negate the very connection telepathically that you have. You often doubt it. You often turn away from it. So accepting your own guidance, your own internal truth, is extremely important in how these star codes erupt. Because your own belief is a frequency. It is equal to God. It is equal to Source. And when you hold it, it will run through you, engaging all things in the appropriate way in divine time.
I have been told by a channel that I came into this life with 9 strands of DNA and that I am 9th dimensional. Can you explain what determines the level of dimensionality a being comes into this life with? For example, ET genetics and evolution.
We have the Pleiadians, and we're also going to be speaking with the Arcturians on this question. And we are pleased to answer, there are many dimensional realities that exist on your plane of Earth, and there are several containers that we wish to speak of as well that hold these dimensional realities. So it is possible for a singular being to operate in multiple dimensional universes or timelines in one linear life. First, we want to speak of the containers, and we have spoken of this many times before. There are 3 containers that are crystalline energetic openings to realities. There is the soul container, there is the higher self container, which is planetary or collective for your race, and there is the universal container, which is an open source field of the oversoul. Now, these 3 containers are able to experience dimensional realities differently. And as soul energy, you were given 12 strands of DNA. You were created within that likeness. Those 12 strands of DNA have a crystalline double. There's a carbon-based strand that holds your physical reality or your physical history. And there is a crystalline double that is a multidimensional connection of the grids. As you are ascending and experiencing here through your soul journey, the crystalline strand becomes intertwined or connected to the physical strand. Now, when you were born, when you chose a relationship to this planet, you were all born in a 3-strand DNA based on the time in which you came, and the time in which you arrived, and the collective race that you chose, which is humanity. That soul energy is different than your higher self or the planetary energy. That planetary energy holds a dimension as well. Currently on your planet, there are 2 different dimensions that we'll speak of in a moment. Some of you came with DNA strands crystallized when you arrived here to a 7th or 9th dimensional access point. All that means is that you came as an evolved soul choosing experiences integrated with your knowledge to activate your specific extrasensory tools or telepathic abilities. That does not mean that you're choosing to create in that dimension. And it is quite difficult as a soul to create in a 9th or 7th dimensional energy because your universe, through universal law, your planet does not allow you to hold that high of a dimension. Each dimension holds a different speed of reality and a set of information or criteria. So as you add dimension or raise in dimension, there is less density, higher vibrational speed, and more access to the universal time grid and information. So when a soul is accessing its multidimensional DNA, it's able to access records and information beyond what this planetary structure holds. Now, as a collective race, you hold a singular structure as well, and that collective race is often vibrating in a very similar speed. In the planet, or on the planet right now, your human race is vibrating at the same vibrational speed, and there are 2 forms of dimensional consciousness that are being created. This splitting of timelines has never happened here before, and it is a relationship of your consciousness and perception that is allowing that dimension to be held. So those that are accepting a 3rd dimensional reality are limiting their perception and their creation based on their free will. Those that are choosing a 5th dimensional energy are expanding beyond what those in the 3rd dimension are able to create and vibrate through. In a universal or oversoul energy, 12th dimensional energy is present and fully accessed. So when you were told that you had this vibrational strand of DNA, it is often relatable to the information you came in with as a soul, as well as the efforts or the work that you have done at a soul level to expand your consciousness. It is an access point for you of information and is a current potential that you hold vibrationally. That may also change. It changes based on the planetary alignments and the way those alignments unfold, and it changes based on your soul energy as well.
Are there best practices to activate Kundalini energy?
I'm sorry, we're going to go back to the previous question. And then we will answer that one. The Arcturians wanted to add something to that question. We are the Arcturians, and we're pleased to also supply additional information about the way in which dimension is held. You see, dimensional speed of your singular structure has much to do with free will. So just because you are vibrating in a 9-strand DNA does not mean that your free will is connected to that access. And we wish to go back to the previous question to remember what was said about belief and frequency of belief as being God. So many who are vibrating in a 7 to 9-strand structure are not able to use the technology to access the information of that structure because they do not hold the appropriate belief or vibrational frequency to access it. Yes. Could you please ask the question again?
Are there best practices to activate Kundalini energy?
We're the Lemurian Collective, and we are pleased, as always, to be a part of this transmission. We are also ninth dimensional. Kundalini activation is an aspect of ancient history that has been used in many dimensional perceptions. The Kundalini energy holds a direct connection to source God frequency. When it is activated, there are a variety of different, what we'll call results that can take place within the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual structures. But we wish to take you back in time to ancient Lemuria when many of us used the Kundalini practice. You see, this Kundalini practice was often engaged as a collective vibration, meaning that we, as the Lemurians, had held an intention of highest good for all beings in our collective. In all of our decision-making, all of our creative efforts were aligned with that highest intention for our race. And when the Kundalini was activated, it allowed us to experience states of bliss and joy and peace by creating an alignment with those frequencies. These ancient practices still exist on your planet and are being taught in different types of interpretations. Some being taught for advancement of spiritual gifts or advancement of your DNA. Others for activation of the sexual energy or clearing of blocks within that creative process. The Kundalini energy is the base source of all creation. Much of that energy sits within the root and sacral chakras, in the lower chakras, and is a source connection to earth. When you are accessing the Kundalini and you are vibrating in that Kundalini breath or many different pathways that allow you to activate Kundalini, you are actually healing the vibrational source energy as it takes a route or a process or a path through your chakras. Think back to the way in which you were created. A male and female energy dynamically came together in order to facilitate through bliss and joy an aspect of God. When you are raising the Kundalini energy through ancient practice or breath work, you are activating that ancient form of creation in you, which can also take many forms. Vibrationally, that creation can be projected or directed through your intention or your consciousness. So raising the Kundalini energy and creating through your thought and emotional body activations can result in physical manifestations, healings, or interaction with Source. Also, doing a Kundalini practice can activate creation quite literally here in the physical, as physical birth. But of course, there are many applications of this. As your consciousness is evolving, more of the Kundalini practice or process will be revealed and unveiled. Very similarly to disclosure here on your planet, because your consciousness must be prepared and ready to be able to engage in these energies for the betterment of humanity. And a Kundalini energy is a very powerful energy. When you are not holding it in the highest intention for humanity, it can have an output that is not desired for your collective. So we ask that those humans who are using this ancient practice to hold it in the highest regard and know that it offers for you the advantage of operating not only in your singular structure, but also in a collective structure.
Could you conclude the session, please?
We're very pleased. We are the Pleiadians. We've been very pleased and honored and activating through this source consciousness with you our own race and our own integration. What we remind you of is that our interaction with you is not just about teaching and offering. It is about receiving. Because as humans are interacting with each other and creating here on this planet, we take away much learning, much joy, much importance, much significance from you. So it is our divine honor and with great peace to say many blessings and much gratitude. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. anyone have any questions, experiences, things they want to share? Yeah.
I love when you brought Magdalene in. Her energy is just so abrasive.
I know.
I mean, just over the whole group. And it's just beautiful.
I love her energy, and actually, she's been so close to me in the last month since we did the last channeling. I've been overwhelmed. So those of you in the room who do my courses, we're going to be working with her in the,
Michaela, you've mentioned in some of the other channelings and whatnot that you're noticing that you're starting to, there's been references to a 13th dimensional consciousness. Yes. Is that becoming a little bit more open from your perspective and what your experience is?
Yeah, they're actually giving me some information on that. Everything that we are doing here on this planet is contributing to that 13th dimension being created and expanded. But it's not just us. It's every other race and every other star system, every other planet in the universe. So we are contributors to that. And yes, we have a connection to it that's opening too within our chakras. And that's going to be a long process, I think, the whole integration of that. But I know it's happening, and they're kind of showing me, like, it's just like halfway. I get this like halfway mark. You know, we're kind of, we're expanding it as we go, and everything that we're doing is contributing to that. So yeah, we're part of it with many others, I believe. Questions? Final questions? Okay. It has been my pleasure to be here. So honored to be in this room with all of you who came out. I am in great appreciation and gratitude. And those of you who don't know Ethan Fox, he's doing an amazing session afterwards. He does a beautiful energy transfer and discourse. So I encourage you to stay. I'll be here between and after, and we can connect. Thank you.